This leaves me to introduce today's keynote speakers. Please welcome Liverpool John Moores University in Learning Lab 2. And here on the main stage, I'm delighted to be presenting Andrea Sutcliffe, Chief Executive and Registrar of the Nursing and Midwifery Council. Since 2019, Andrea has been the Chief Executive Officer and Registrar of the Nursing and Midwifery Council. Her self-described mission for the NMC was to help it rediscover its humanity, and she defines the role of regulators as threefold: to regulate the profession, support and understand the context of those who are referred, and influence wider stakeholders where system issues are contributing to incident and risk. Today, she joins us to talk about supporting, protecting, and celebrating nurses, the role of regulation in challenging times. A very warm welcome.
Thank you so much, Susan, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here with you in Liverpool today. What a fantastic city, and what a wonderful night we had last night at the awards. I mean, I could not think of a more magnificent setting than Liverpool Cathedral to celebrate the very best in nursing, and it was a wonderful evening. That celebration, and just huge congratulations to Julie Roy, our new RCN Nurse of the Year, and all of the other finalists and winners. It was just a magnificent occasion. So my name is Andrea Sutcliffe, as you know. I have the absolute privilege to be the Chief Executive and Registrar of the Nursing and Midwifery Council. And this week I was talking to somebody about how I ended up in this role, and I said that every element of my career has helped me to get into this post. So I've managed local NHS services in children and women, neurosciences, older people services, mental health care of older people. So I've worked alongside nurses and midwives, and I absolutely know what an incredible job you do and the difference that you make in people's lives, which is fantastic. I've also worked in social services, and what that means is that I'm very aware of the breadth and depth of the different nursing roles that there are, the different settings that people work in, and the different communities that you're serving. And that's something that's so important for the regulator to remember. I've worked at a national level for the National Institute for Clinical Excellence, as it was, and other organisations. That brings a different challenge, I should say, to working at a local level, requiring a level of diplomatic skills like you wouldn't believe. And they've definitely come in handy when I've been at the NMC. I've also worked in standard setting and in regulation, which, as you know, is absolutely core to what we do at the NMC. And I've been a chief executive of much smaller organisations before, but I do at least know what a tough job it is. So that's the CV. They've all helped me to get to here, but it doesn't really tell you what drives me, what makes me do the thing that I do. And that is all about making a difference for people. Making a difference for people in all of those different roles is the golden thread through my career. But what I also wanted to reflect upon is, why is that? And just to introduce you to the real Andrea Sutcliffe, because all of us are shaped by our background and our experiences. And I'm no different to any one of you in terms of that being the reason why I do what I do. So I'm a proud northern working class girl. My family is incredibly important to me. In particular, my little brother Adrian, who you can see here, who very sadly died from suicide in 2006. And there's so many different aspects of Adrian's story that makes it absolutely clear to me how important safe, effective, and kind care is for everybody that needs that help and support. And why it is that at the NMC, we must strive to support you to deliver the highest possible standards of care, because that's what I would have, actually, for a vast majority of the time, that is what Adrian got, but that's what I would like for everybody in his situation. I know about loss. These are my candles from Baby Loss Awareness Week. I enjoy a challenge, going up a mountain, but also in my working life. And I love getting out and about and meeting people, so there's some photographs there. But I guess that the thing that really characterises my approach to the way that I do my job is when I was at the Care Quality Commission, I talked about the mum test. And I think that that absolutely applies to what I do at the Nursing and Midwifery Council, and that applies for everything that all of you do as well. So the mum test was, is this the care that I would want my mum or anybody I love to receive? And if it is, that's fantastic. We should celebrate it. We should promote it. We should be talking about it like we did last night in the cathedral. But if it's not the care that I would want my mum or anybody I love to receive, then we need to do something about it. And we need to do something about it in terms of making sure we're providing the support and guidance to enable people to deliver good care. So this is indeed my mum. She's looking very happy because this was a photograph that was taken on my wedding day. And it had taken me 17 years to get David to marry me. So she was pretty pleased when I pulled it off. And actually, that's what we want. We want, even in the most difficult of circumstances, we want people to feel that they've been valued, that they've been cared for, that they've been supported, and that they are able to face life with a smile. So going to the Nursing and Midwifery Council, as Susan has already very kindly said, there are some very specific things that we set out that we need to do. So our vision is for safe, effective, kind nursing and midwifery practice, which improves everyone's health and well-being. Absolutely critical that we think about the outcome of what it is that we do, not just the process of what we do. So we're here to protect the public. That's what's written in our legislation, to be absolutely clear that we're to protect the public, but also to promote confidence in the professions. And we know that nursing is the most trusted profession in this country. And whilst the vast majority of the public have no idea what the Nursing and Midwifery Council is, I do think the fact that we're here to regulate, support, and to influence actually helps to strengthen that trust and confidence that the public has in the nursing profession. So it's about promoting those high standards and shaping the practice of everybody on the register as well. So I took up this job in 2019 and was very lucky to have a year before the pandemic, frankly, but also very lucky to have a year to develop our strategy and be very clear about what it is that we're here to do and how we want to do it. So we set out our regulation. We're here to regulate. We're here to set those standards, quality assure the education programs, make sure that the register, the integrity of the register is maintained, and obviously to deal with concerns if they arise. But we want to do that in a supportive way. We want to do that to support the professionals on our register, not to wait for everything to go wrong and then pick up the pieces afterwards, but actually to proactively support the people on our register, and also to support the public who engage with us. If we are talking about protecting the public, we need to understand what good looks like for them and what they want us to do to support all of you. And last but not least, we sit on a gold mine of evidence in terms of the information of people that are on the register, why they leave the register, what the issues are that come through to us in fitness to practice, so many other things. And we want to use that information to influence, to promote the safe and inclusive environments that you need to be able to do the work that you do. So that's what we're here to do. But just as important is how we do it. And one of the things that we did in 2020 was to talk to professionals, colleagues within the organisation, say, what are our values? And these are the ones that we came up with. You want your regulator to be fair. You want us to make evidence-based decisions. You want us to promote equality, inclusion, and tackle discrimination. It's absolutely core to what we're doing. But we also wanted to be kind, to make sure that whatever the situation was, we're treating people with dignity and respect and supporting them in the difficult work that they do. We're ambitious. We're ambitious for the professionals on our register to be able to deliver that fantastic care, and I'm ambitious for the organisation to be the best organisation it possibly can be. And none of us can do our jobs without working with other people. And so that's the reason why collaborative is a core part of our values as well. So just to give you a little bit of data, it's a growing register. There are about 800,000 people on our register now. That is 1 in every 100 adults is on our register. It's a phenomenal thing in terms of nursing and midwifery across the 4 countries of the UK. And those professionals touch the lives of every UK citizen at some point in their lives. Those numbers are increasing. They increased over the last year, and we've also been seeing an increase in the number of nursing associates in terms of that new profession coming onto the register in 2019. And a little kind of fanfare, the end of November, our newest data report will be coming out, giving you all of the figures for the end of September. Personally, I find it a fascinating read. I really recommend it to you. But we're going to try and do it in a slightly different way this time to make it a bit more accessible for people. The other thing about the register is it's changing. And one of the key things about the changing register is the change in the diversity of the register. So increasing numbers of people have been coming onto the register from overseas. So last year, about 52,000 people joined the register, the highest number ever. But nearly half of them came from overseas, from internationally educated nurses and midwives. And both those people coming onto the register, but also increasing diversity of our UK graduates, is meaning that the diversity of the register is increasing as well, in terms of the numbers of people who are from Black, Asian, or other minority ethnic backgrounds. And that's important because what we know is that many of those colleagues very sadly face discrimination in their workplace, and that impacts on their ability to do the job and on the safety of the people that we're all here to serve, the public. So it's really important that we understand that, understand the impact, and understand what we can do to tackle it. So the title of this address was around challenging times. And I probably don't need to go through this slide with you, do I? In terms of the challenging times that all of you are facing, both in terms of the demand that's there and the increasing complexity of that demand, but also the fact that, you know, however quickly and the register is growing, and it is, we still don't have enough. So we still don't have enough people to do the jobs that we need to do to meet the demand. And that's kind of impacting on us in terms of what's happened with COVID and the recovery plans that everybody is trying to respond to. And of course, it's not just been the Royal College of Nursing that's been taking industrial action, others have as well. And that's had a direct impact on patient care, the increase in the waiting list, and the pressure on our nursing and midwifery staff as well. So it's been a tough old time, and as I say, we live in a society which is very divided, very fragmented, and we reflect that society at work as well. So again, we can see an increase in fragmentation, division, and conflict, and the impact of discrimination and racism. So what is our role? What can we do to kind of help thinking through those key 3 things of what can we do in our regulatory space, what can we do in our support space, and what can we do to influence in terms of that challenging environment? So I've already talked about kind of the key things that we do in professional practice around setting standards, looking at our training and education, and ensuring those education programs. So there's a lot of work going on at the moment in professional practice, looking at the pre-registration standards. We introduced new standards earlier this year, which enabled, and my colleague Paula spoke on one of the stages yesterday about the increased hours of simulation that nursing students can do. But what we're also doing is looking at the quality of the clinical placements that people are going on, and how can we strengthen that, because we're constantly getting challenged that other countries manage to do student placements in many less hours than we do, and how can we do that more quickly? Well, we can't do it more quickly if every minute doesn't count in a clinical placement. So we need to make sure that that's what's driving us, is the quality of what we're doing there. We're also looking at how we're doing our quality assurance approach around education programmes. You know, what can we do to really make sure that we are training and supporting our new nurses, midwives and nursing associates to really understand what they're facing and what they need to be able to do, and what questions are we asking the education institutions to make sure that that's the case. We're currently exploring whether we should be regulating advanced practice, and those of you who are advanced practitioners, if you're not part of our community of interest yet, then please get involved. There's many, many hundreds of people already doing that, but this is a really important piece of work in terms of understanding what potentially is the public protection issue that we need to be addressing here, what support can we give to people, and how should we do that in a proportionate way going forwards. We're also going to be looking at the code. It will have its 10-year anniversary in 2025, so I think that's about time for us to take a really good look at it. It stood us in fantastically good stead through the pandemic and in other circumstances. So it's not to say that it's a bad code, but I think it's right and proper that we have a look at it, think about how we can improve it for the future. And once we've done that, we're also going to see what more we should be doing around revalidation as well. Just thinking about the register, one of the things that we've been doing is, because there's been so much pressure on new people coming from overseas, is trying to ensure that we've been streamlining our international registration processes, working with colleagues to look at what we're requiring around English language, and also making sure that where it's identified, and sadly it is identified, where there are potentially fraudulent entries onto the register, that we're tackling those. You want us to make sure that the right people are on the register working alongside of you, and that's absolutely what we're focused on doing. Some of you will be aware that we have a significant problem around our fitness to practice caseload. When we started the pandemic, it was growing at that stage, and we had lots of fantastic plans to sort it, sideswiped by the pandemic in terms of we couldn't hold hearings, we suspended some of our investigation action, all sorts of things impacted on us there, like they did for everybody across health and social care. So we're very busy tackling that and trying to address it. But sadly, what we've been seeing very recently is an increase in referrals. And I think that that's a consequence of two things potentially. One, the dissatisfaction that the public have with health and social care at the moment. Doesn't mean to say that it is a nurse or a midwife's fault, but actually when something goes wrong, the person that they're going to remember is the nurse or midwife who was supporting them. And the other issue, I think, has been the impact of the Lucy Letby verdict and the fallout of that, in terms of people thinking, gosh, we've got a problem, we must tell the NMC straight away. When actually what we've been encouraging people to do is to tackle things locally and to sort things out at that local level. That is still the right thing to do, but I can understand why people might be a little bit nervous at the moment. And we're also looking at how we can improve our processes. So I mentioned to you the disproportionate referral of black nurses and male nurses into our fitness to practice process. So we've commissioned a whole programme of work around looking at that, understanding that, but understanding what it is that we can do to influence the behaviour, because it's employers that are doing this. It's not the public. What can we do to influence them in terms of changing that dynamic? In terms of support, one of the things that we're looking at is, there are these challenges that we're facing. What can we practically do to help? A very significant thing that we did about a year ago, actually, we're probably about the year anniversary of publishing it, was an anti-racist resource, which we developed with NHS England and the NHS Confederation. And what that absolutely says is, if you're following the code, you're anti-racist, and if you're anti-racist, you live in the code. It's not an either-or, it's absolutely integrated, and there's a whole host of resources behind that which can help you in terms of tackling those issues, which are difficult and tricky. So really important that we're thinking about that. We've also been doing a lot of work to try and make what we do more accessible. So our little animations, caring with confidence, translating segments of the code into something that's really accessible, that I know people use as part of their team conversations. Students love them. I think they're fantastic. I can say that because I had nothing to do with doing it. It was our communications and professional practice colleagues that did it, but really helpful in terms of really embedding some key concepts. Our employer link service has developed a welcome to the UK for overseas registrants. And one of the really important reasons for doing that is what we found out is that people were getting told, those myths that you all know, that the NMC is the big bad wolf and we're going to report you for doing this and you can't do that because otherwise you're going to lose your PIN number. No. Do not use the NMC as the threat. The NMC is here to support you, and this is what regulation in the UK is all about, and trying to make sure that that is accessible and understandable so people aren't frightened by us. And what we're also doing is working, we had a face-to-face meeting in Manchester just 2 days ago with our Public Voice Forum. A pretty feisty group of people who are not backwards and coming forwards in terms of telling us how they think that we should do things better, which is just brilliant and really has helped to shape some of the work that we're doing. So in terms of influence, we published this year our very first spotlight on nursing and midwifery. This was taking lots of the information that we had and highlighting 3 key things around discrimination in the workplace and what we were seeing there, the lack of support for new nurses, midwives and nursing associates and the impact that that had and what needed to be done to address it, and also midwifery safety concerns. And that is going to be something that we will do on an annual basis, drawing out from our evidence base what some of the key issues are that we think that the whole system should take into consideration. We have the prospect of regulatory reform coming up, and one of the things that I know that the Royal College of Nursing has absolutely put its shoulder to is the campaign around Protect Nurse. Nurse is not a protected title. Midwife is, but nurse isn't. And we are hoping that the regulatory reform that is coming in will enable us to make sure that that happens. And the other survey that we put out this year was our Leavers survey, again highlighting the issues why people were leaving the register. And one of the key things that came out of that was that people are leaving earlier than they planned to. So it wasn't just retirement, it was actually, I've had enough. I've had enough because of burnout and all of those sorts of things. Again, really important for the system, leaders, local employers to understand what those issues are. Some of you may be aware of the challenges that have been highlighted in the Independent around concerns about the NMC, our culture, the way that we are tackling some of our fitness to practice cases, and the way that we've responded to whistleblowing concerns within the organisation. Now, that's a painful thing for a whistleblower from within the organisation to go to the press. But when things go wrong in nursing, what we ask all of you to do is say, do you have insight? Do you understand that there's a problem? Is this something that you've done a reflection on to learn what you need to do better, and have you strengthened your practice? That's absolutely what we need to do at the NMC. So yes, we have insight. These are issues that we knew about, that we were tackling. We've got a really good equality, diversity and inclusion action plan, but what's obvious is we're not making the progress that we need to make. We're not being as consistent as we need to be, so we need to do more. So that's the insight. The reflection is getting somebody independent outside the organisation, a King's Counsel, Ijoma Omambala, whose photograph is here, to come in and have a look and really help us to get under the skin of all of this, really understand what's going on. And we will also be doing that, working with a diverse group of colleagues across the organisation to really understand what's happening in our culture so that we can make an improvement there. And all of that we will do with transparency. But I want to end by saying a huge thank you. A huge thank you to all of you and to all of the professionals on our register. And a last personal story. This year that my dad was extremely ill and had to have life-saving surgery. We literally had that conversation that said, come and say your goodbyes because he might not get out of surgery. I then spent time on the ward, 5 days on ITU with my dad, time back on the ward. I was so proud to be doing this job. That nursing care was amazing. And the way that they treated my father with the dignity and respect that he deserved, the way they cared for me, my mother and my family at a very difficult point in our lives, and the kind of person-centered nature of all of it was just superb. I know that's my personal experience this year. I wouldn't recommend that you spend 5 days in ITU finding that out. It was very stressful, but actually I know that that's happening every day in every setting, and it's a huge thank you to everybody that is delivering on that. So thank you all very much, and thank you for the opportunity today.
Thank you so much, Andrea. And we've got some time for questions now. And we asked everyone to submit prior to the talk. So I'd like to start. We spoke a lot yesterday with the chief nursing officers, and they talked a lot about their own experience and journey. When you think about your career so far, what advice would you give to from your younger self?
Ooh. A couple of things, I think. One is everybody has an imposter syndrome feeling. You know, that little voice on your shoulder that says, you're not good enough, what are you doing here? You know, somebody's going to find you out. Actually, the advice I'd give, don't listen. You know, actually, you can do it. You can make that difference. You can kind of go into those really difficult, tough jobs. Take advantage of the opportunities. Use that voice to help you to do better, not to hold you back. So that'd be the first thing. And then the second thing is to remember that the way you are has an impact. And the way you are in whatever role that you have, but particularly as a leader. So my favourite quote from Maya Angelou is, people will forget what you did, they'll forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And I think that is something that's really important for everybody to remember. And I kind of want to say that back to my younger self to say, you know, those times when you've been a bit crabby and you've been a bit frustrated, actually that has an impact. So don't do it.
Thank you. And alongside that, I guess you've talked about some of the challenges in the NMC at the moment. How do you manage your own personal resilience to never be crabby?
Okay, so every now and again it just slips, but hopefully not. I think you have to be very self-aware. What are the things that actually center you? I mean, help you? So the things that help me are getting out. One of the reasons why there's a picture of me on that slide about the real me sitting on a mountain in the middle of beautiful countryside is because that really does help. I mean, a bit of physical exercise, a bit of challenge, and that kind of takes you away from the stresses and strains. So that's really important. The second thing is know who your allies are. Yeah. Know where you can go for your support. So I'm blessed to have a coach who I've worked with for a long time now, and she is that person who, I can talk to my husband, I can talk to my friends, I can talk to colleagues. Everybody else has got a vested interest, but Sheila is there to make me a better person in the job that I'm doing, and actually that's really important as well. Bit of a download space, bit of a development space.
Yeah, thank you. You touched on the external review that you've just commissioned and the independent investigations. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, of course. I think the thing that we've tried to do is we don't want to be defensive about this. We want to actually kind of make sure that we're using this as an opportunity to be better. It's absolutely what we need to be doing. So the reviews that we've commissioned, they're independent. The King's Counsel, who we've appointed, is just phenomenal. She has a background in employment law and regulation, so actually has a really good spread of skills to bring to this, which is fantastic. But she cherishes her independence because she's got her own credibility to kind of think about. So we know that we can rely upon that being independent. We also want it to be thorough, this isn't a sort of tick box exercise just to look up, what's happening. Oh yeah, it's fine. Yeah. No, we want this to be thorough. We want to learn if there's learning to be gained from this. We do also want to be transparent. We want to make sure that we're going to be clear about the terms of reference of those investigations, and they will be coming out in our council papers next week. And we will be transparent about the findings. Clearly, there may be some things that are confidential, given some of the background of all of this, but largely what we want to be able to do is to be transparent about the findings and the recommendations that come out. I guess the most important thing about it is it's got to be meaningful. Yeah. It's actually got to be meaningful in terms of, with fitness to practice and with whistleblowing, what can we do to be better? And in terms of the culture within the organisation, we've done lots over the years and we've kind of tried to improve, but we need to make sure that we make that step change. We absolutely need to make sure that everybody in the organisation is supported to thrive, because I am personally very disappointed and very sorry that not everybody feels like that. I absolutely want to make sure that that's the case.
Thank you. And I think with these situations, the only thing you really can do is make it better in the future, can't you, rather than sort of try and retrench. So it's really reassuring to hear that. We had a question about micro providers, and I think what it made me think about was, and I actually realised I wasn't that sure myself, was how the NMC...
Secret is safe with us,
yeah,
Susan.
No one will know. How do the NMC and CQC work together?
So it's a very important relationship, and that's the Care Quality Commission working in England. And of course, we've got relationships with the other quality regulators in the other 3 countries as well. So it's very important that we remember we're a 4-country regulator, and we need to be kind of linking up with others too. So the way that we work together is about being clear about the different roles and responsibilities. So there are boundaries. So, the quality regulators, CQC in England, as I say, looking at provision of care, the way that things are organised. We are looking at the individual. So actually there will be things that will come to us and are about, maybe about an individual, might actually flag something up which we should be sharing with the quality regulators because it's more of a systemic issue, something that they should be aware of. So between the 2 of us, there are cross referrals. The second thing that we're trying to do is also to bring together the different bits of information that we know and have together to spot problems. So actually, if you think about what we might be seeing in terms of what people are telling our employer link service, what the public are telling us in fitness to practice referrals, if we link that up with what the CQC are getting, or health inspection in Scotland or in Wales and Northern Ireland, then actually we might be able to identify issues that people can proactively manage rather than waiting for there to be a problem. So there's a sort of, practical working together, but also trying to make sure that we're influencing in a systematic way, together as well.
Thank you. And I guess the real opportunity there is to get ahead.
Yes.
Because patients do worse out of organisations that are in trouble or individuals that are having difficulties.
Well, every kind of inquiry that you read talks about national organisations not working together, and that we miss the signals, we miss connecting the dots. It's not easy because they're all big organisations, got their own jobs to do, all of that sort of thing. But if we can do that connecting of the dots, then we will make a better system for everybody.
Thank you. You touched on the pressure on nursing at the moment, and I think that's been a really clear theme over the last day or so. How do you take that into account when you're analysing referrals?
I think it is really important, and we know that the pressure was there anyway. kind of intensified by the pandemic and then the consequences of that and the way that we're trying to recover. Also, I think the public attitude to all of these things has changed over the last few years. There's a lower level of tolerance around things going wrong. So we are seeing referrals coming through. And one of the things that we've done over the last few years is to say, we want to understand the context. We want to understand, is this truly an issue about an individual's fitness to practice? Or actually, could that have happened to anybody on that shift because there weren't enough people? They hadn't had the training, the proper equipment wasn't there, or there wasn't clarity in terms of what they should be doing. So we are asking questions now about that context, and when we're screening decisions or screening referrals or investigating them, we will be really seeking to understand that context and feeding back to the organisation if we think that actually this isn't an individual's fitness to practice, this is an issue for the organisation to address.
Thank you. That was the end of our questions today, and I think you've given us a huge amount of insight into firstly, your own passion to make things better for the public. Secondly, the role of the NMC, not just, as you say, the scary NMC, but actually someone that's here, an organisation that's here to support working towards early warning with wider system partners. So thank you very, very much for kicking us off today, Andrea.
Absolutely my pleasure, and everybody enjoy the rest of the day.